Hi, today we talk about Oklahoma getting legal weed, and then we talk about Sha'Carri Richardson, unfortunately. By the way, I didn't mean unfortunately because it's Sha'Carri Richardson. I just mean it's unfortunate that we have to still talk about marijuana and Sha'Carri. Anyway, let's start with the Oklahoma story, which is not much of a story at this point. We're just gonna kind of peek into Oklahoma and see how they're doing with legal marijuana. They're in a specific spot, which is kind of interesting because their medical marijuana business is booming in this state. It's a very lax, laissez-faire market, and a lot of people from Texas are coming up because Texas is like, you know, they're not gonna get marijuana for a while. So a lot of people go up to Oklahoma to get their weed. And because of that, their medical marijuana is doing really well. However, legal marijuana, recreational marijuana in the state is still punished really severely, and they are pretty much due to get some legal recreation in the state. With that in mind, there are some initiatives that are going about trying to get signatures for the ballot in November. There are about 3 different initiatives. All of them do different things. The names of these are SQ 818, SQ 819, and SQ 820. The first one, SQ 818, is all about the medical marijuana industry, and it just expands it and makes it much bigger and vaster and blah, blah, blah. That one's important, but it's not really kind of the meat of the subject that we're talking about today. 819 is the first one that would legalize marijuana and allow for cultivation and allow for possession. These first 2 initiatives are constitutional amendments, meaning that they need to gather a whole crap load of signatures. They need to gather 177,000 signatures in order for this to get on the ballot. I don't know exactly when the deadline is. I believe it's sometime in the spring, but they have to get all of that before it can get on the ballot. And right now they're in the middle of some court hearings, and they're not able to garner any more signatures when the court hearings are going on. So hopefully that gets figured out soon, and then they can get all these signatures and then get on the ballot. However, SQ 820 is an initiative that, because it's not a constitutional amendment, it's a statutory amendment. While it still legalizes recreational marijuana, they need to gather only 94,000 signatures. So it's more than half of the amount that they would need. And the other ones, still, they can't garner any signatures when it's in the courts. So that's kind of where Oklahoma is. They're kind of stuck in this limbo. After that, they're hopefully gonna get a lot more signatures and they can get on the ballot. And if it gets on the ballot, dude, this happens every single time. It's gonna do really well. They're gonna get recreational marijuana. So I'm thinking that once they get these signatures, it's gonna look really, really good for Oklahoma to have legal marijuana. Okay, second story today is kind of an interesting one. It goes back to the whole Sha'Carri Richardson issue that happened in the Summer Olympics, where she wasn't allowed to perform because there was marijuana in her system. Now it's come up again because she has tweeted that there is a discrepancy between how she was treated and how another Olympian in the Winter Olympics happening now was treated with a doping scandal. There's a Russian figure skater. Her name is Kamila Valieva. She was found to have Trametazidine. She was found to have that in her system, and what it does is it increases exercise duration and improve cardiac performance, so it's clearly a performance-enhancing drug. And with that, she was suspended temporarily and then was brought back. There were some challenges to it, and then she was found to be able to play. And Sha'Carri Richardson is like, what the hell? Like that, why, how is there a difference between what I did and what she's doing? And it seems to me that the only difference is my skin color, which is black, and hers, which is white. It's a lot more complicated than that. I understand where she's coming from, but it's certainly a lot more complicated for that. For one, Sha'Carri Richardson is dealing with the United States Anti-Doping Agency, whereas this other figure skater is dealing with the Russian Anti-Doping Agency, which is clearly a very big difference, and Russia doesn't really care so much about these rules as opposed to the United States, which does. Another thing that the Court of Arbitration said about the whole deal when the issue was brought to them was that this figure skater is underage, and because of that, she is a protected class, and she can't be brought to the same standards as other people. That kind of seems like a little bit of, kind of seems BS, but I understand where they're coming from. My main thing that makes it feel very different, and that I don't necessarily think it's all skin color, is it's dealing with a Russian agency, and I think they're much more focused on the gold medals or the medals as opposed to any morality clause in contracts. It's unfortunate that Sha'Carri Richardson has to deal with this, especially because marijuana itself is not really much of a performance-enhancing drug. I mean, maybe you could say it has something to do with focus, but the silliness in that situation is kind of separate from this situation with the figure skater. So to put them together and say that it's because of racism, I'm not totally on that side. That being said, I think the idea of marijuana being a part of the doping agency's thing where you can't have it in your system is a little bit absurd to me, and hopefully that changes because of Sha'Carri Richardson. Hopefully her whole situation brings about further change later on. And that's that. The Super Bowl happened, so there were a bunch of commercials. Some were very clever, some were not. There was a Skechers commercial that Willie Nelson dealt with, and I find it interesting. I think marijuana's in a silly position now where, like, in social media, on broadcasting, you have to find your way around it. You can talk about it, but indirectly, so people get a little more creative. And so here's a little clip from the Willie Nelson commercial that was aired during the Super Bowl, and we'll leave it at that, and we'll be back later this week with some more stories. We'll see them.
Hi, I'm Willie Nelson. I fought for the legalization of the one thing that can bring comfort to millions, Skechers. You see, Skechers shouldn't be illegal. They help so many...
Willie.